Hi, and welcome back to Swiping Left, a podcast where we talk about dating apps and crazy dating stories and just anything that comes up about dating, because lots of stuff comes up. I'm Suzanne Linfante. I'm your host. My guest today is fellow comedian Alyson Chadwick. You can find her on TikTok under Alyson Chadwick. What kind of stuff you got out there, Alyson?
Pretty much topical jokes. I try to do one a day, and
Oh,
there's
cool.
so much craziness in the news that there's more than one thing to make fun of a day.
Oh,
So that's where I house most of my topical stuff.
okay. Perfect. So that's where you can find her. And welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you on here. So dating stories. We're talking about dating stories. Do you have anything crazy? Do you use the dating apps?
I do, and I find like people on there are just it's just like the fear of missing out. People put their best selves on dating apps and Facebook. Like you think people have the most perfect lives. But I met one guy and I was talking to him on one of them, and he seemed really nice. And then I'm like, somehow TV came up, and I'm like, what's your favorite television show? And he said, without a bit of irony, General Hospital. And I'm like, if this was 1985, that might be the answer, but it's 2022, so no.
Wow. So he's still wrapped up in the lives of General Hospital. That's
I'm like, what algorithm? What do I have in my thing that makes you think that that's something I like? Or people like, I'm a big Democrat, and someone texted me, they're like, oh, I love Biden, he's doing a great job. Turned out he was a huge Trump supporter. I'm like, what algorithm came spit you up as good?
yeah.
And why would you waste your time? Like,
Yeah,
okay.
even lying about probably lying about what he said about Biden. So like, I mean, if that was not how he felt. So yeah, that is weird. That's weird why anyone would even reach out and do that. Like why?
Like, why are you trolling me on a dating
Yeah.
app?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. But do you find that see, I find not everybody puts their best self out there. I've seen profile pictures
Oh, profile
that
pictures, they could rival mugshots.
oh, exactly. And I'm just like, what is going on here?
You're
is
kidding.
are you
Like,
getting people like to respond and say they want to date you?
or when it's not even pictures of them. Like, if it's a picture of like a group of people, who are you in this picture? How am I supposed
Yes.
to
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I'm not saying anything about their looks. I'm just saying they have a mean, like nasty look on their face, or I've seen some sleeping. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not even
Or they
like
look like they're being punked in their picture. Like, did you fall asleep at a party and someone took your? Why would
exactly.
you do that as the? Or why are they always in bathrooms? There's a
Yes.
lot. Like, I don't need to see your toilet or whatever toilet that is. I just, yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah. So not always their best self out there. Have you met anyone and it just went like off the rails or?
I did. I went on one date with this guy. Well, I went on a few dates, but the one that really was funny is the guy just gave me a history lesson on Sikhs in India, which was interesting, but like there was no real conversation. I'm like, yeah, that would have been nice as a lecture, but I don't know if as a date. Where one guy, I'm like, you're just too into physical fitness. Like we're not gonna. You start talking about your body as a temple with me, I'm like, yeah, we're probably not gonna hit it off. But
Wow. So that one guy, it was like a private
yeah,
history lesson.
right. He sat down. He's like, I'm a Sikh. I'm like, okay, I'm a Buddhist. And I thought we talked about different things, but then he just went in on, he's like, in 1939 in India. And I'm like, did I sign up
Wow.
for the date or the, lecture? But he was a nice guy.
Of
But I was
course.
like, he's like, I want to come over and clean your rug. And I'm like, what? And he meant my actual rug. And I'm like,
What is that? What does that mean?
I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So we didn't go out again.
He wanted to clean your rug. Wait, I need to explore this. Like, because I'm looking at a very dirty rug here, and I'm like, is he available? It's like,
I know. Well, I said something about I think during our chatting online, I mentioned I bought a rug cleaner for the carpet in my living room. And so he's like, I'd really like to come clean your rug. And I'm like, but I'd forgotten about that at the date. So I'm like, what is he talking about? That could be
oh,
dirty.
yeah, or you want to come up and see my etchings or whatever, anything to get into your house. I mean,
the house.
Oh wow. Okay. That's one I've never heard before. I want to come
Yeah,
over.
no, I never heard it either. It was weird.
Did he work for Stanley Steamer?
He
Um,
owned a bunch of T-Mobile stores.
oh, okay.
That's what,
Okay. Okay. I'm out of questions about it.
yeah,
He
yeah.
sounds delightful though. And really, you never went out again, huh? Can I ask what dating app that was off of, just so I stay away? Or
They're OK Cupid or Plenty of Fish.
oh, gotcha. So my friend calls Plenty of Fish bucket of chum.
Ah, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, no, yeah, she's great. Any other people that you met, or any other weird conversations that you had on like through the dating app?
Um, it just was weird during COVID because people like, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, go to the pharmacy. Like at the time, we weren't allowed to leave the house and to be like, oh, I've got a prescription. I have an excuse to be out of my, because you had shelter in place or whatever. I'm like, no, I have a prescription. So like, I don't know, I binge watch anything. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
so
Well,
now it's a little back to normal, though I've been meeting more people in person recently, which I kind of like better.
I would love to meet someone in person. Like, where are you meeting them? Is it just incidental, or are you specifically going somewhere like, hey, I might meet somebody here?
Well, no, it's kind of incidental. Like, I'm going to a lecture, an actual lecture at the end of the month. I'm hoping
About India?
not about India. I forget what it's about, but like I go to events that I think might be interesting or I might meet interesting people at. I've been going to alumni events up on Stony Brook campus because that's where I went to school.
Okay.
And yeah.
And do you
So
go by yourself, or do you bring friends? Do you think it's easier to meet someone when you're like attending alone, or?
it depends on the event. Like the alumni stuff, I can just go to by myself because I'm an alumni and I usually I'm pretty good at meeting people. But so like an art gallery opening, I might go with friends or something. That might be
Oh,
more with friends.
that sounds interesting. Have you gone to art gallery openings?
I missed one last week. I go to Gallery North, which is the tiny gallery here on Long Island. And yeah,
Oh,
just I try to go to things where I think I might be interested in talking to somebody. I actually went to a great fundraiser for the town tax collector or something really boring. But it was like they took us on a tour of all the sites in Washington, Return Washington Spies. It's a show that takes place out here.
oh.
So that was kind of cool.
Have you had friends set you up on dates, or?
Not with any success. Have you? We're like, well, my friend is really nice, and they have, they're, I guess, have a job. In Florida, my mom tried to set me up with somebody, and I like almost fell asleep on the date. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be awake right now. Like it was just.
Was he under 90? Florida, I think of old
He
people.
was around the same age as me, but he was one of her friends' sons or grandsons or something, and I'm like, we just had nothing in common.
Mm,
He
yeah.
wanted to talk about, honestly, I think the tax code because he was a tax attorney.
Wow, that's exciting.
Now I can watch certain actors. If Ryan Reynolds wants to read the tax code, but this was not like that. This is just like, oh, 401k. Oh yeah, okay.
Wow, yeah. That's not fun. I'm just taking notes because I'm looking for different ways myself. So I'm having such a tough time in the dating apps, and it's me. I know that part of it's me. Like sometimes you just get into such a like emotion of swiping left that even if someone comes up that you want to swipe right on, like it's too late. It's like, no, come back. Wait,
Oh no, I
wait.
wanted to swipe because you get so used to swiping one way. They're like, oh no, I did the. Because honestly, I get people in my dating profile that are like in Texas or
Yeah.
and geography matters. I'm not going to start a relationship with someone in Dallas, Texas. Because our politics are probably not the same. But that's a
And your football teams are not the same. Like I could never, sorry, can't date a Dallas Cowboy fan. No,
oh
just
god. But I even had I met somebody at a Whole Foods in like the produce department who seemed really normal. And then the next day I had 20 texts from him.
Oh.
And I was like, just stop, just because I was going to text him. He's like, it was nice talking to you. I'm like, that's sweet. Leave it there. I'll text him in a day or two. Then I got all these texts, and the last one was a dick pic.
How nice.
And I'm like, and I wrote it back. I'm like, please just stop. And seriously, I don't know who's I've never seen his. I was in the produce department with him. I
Yeah.
wasn't like porn, but I'm like, what did you send this to me for? He goes, well, I wasn't getting a response, and I wasn't sure I had the right phone number. So you sent a dick pic? Like,
That's definitely a way to get your attention. Wow.
I was just like, what?
That's
But if he got like, what if he sent it to the wrong number? Like some older woman is at Safeway and or Publix or whatever, Stop and Shop. She's like, oh, let me see if like, he just killed Granny. Whatever. I just thought
yeah.
that's weird to send that to when you didn't think you had the right number.
Yeah, or at all. I mean, or at all to someone you just met in the supermarket.
Or
I don't
maybe
know.
we met over the eggplants or something.
Apparently you
But
did.
we didn't. It was avocado. So
Oh, avocado, eggplant, same thing. You know, here's a picture of my eggplant. Thanks. That's so did you delete it off your phone or do you keep it for like
I actually like dropped my phone and I lost that. I think that was the universe being like, you don't need to see this anymore.
yeah, sometimes I just keep it just in case, like for the police, just in case he comes back.
Oh, I should have done that.
Have you tried like the Match.coms and stuff like that?
I went on a date that I thought was a great date with Match. It was in Washington, D.C. The guy was from Long Island. We liked the same sports teams, the same politics. It seemed like he picked the place and he picked everything that we had. Because he's like, oh, you got to try this beer. You got to try this. And then at the end of the night, he's like, I don't have my credit card. Can you? And I'm like, no, because you picked the place, you picked everything. This was on, and you asked me. So, and then he found his card.
Oh my, wow.
Like, chip in a little bit, but not like take over the whole thing after you ordered everything.
Yeah, no, that sounded like he was just kind of being a little sneaky there, especially since he found it afterwards.
And then he's like, let me go to my car. And I thought he was just going to bail, but he did come back with a different credit card that he forgot was in his car.
Oh, well,
but
sure.
He really freaked out the waitress. She's like, is he really going to leave and not pay? And I'm like, if he really doesn't pay, I'll pay. But like, I don't want him to know that.
Yeah. Because you don't want to stiff the restaurant. It's not fair to them. And you're a good human, basically.
So he actually gave her a really crappy tip and that date ended. So I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work if you're going to be that way. But I did give her, I added to her tip before I left.
Oh, that was nice. Yeah.
It wasn't his fault that he was a jerk. But that was the one Match.com date I went on.
So no second date there.
That's not true. I went on 2 dates with Match.com. The other guy was easily 20 years older than he said he was.
Ah, yes.
And I could see budging a year or two or something, but 20 is a little bit.
Yes. That's a little excessive. Yeah. That's when I ask them, so how's your son doing? And they say, what son? The one who's supposed to meet me here today.
Yeah, right.
Because it wasn't you. I did not agree to this. Wow. Yeah, I don't get that. You wouldn't notice, right?
Right.
You just wouldn't notice that he was on Social Security.
Seems a little bit different in your picture. Oh, that was my graduation from college picture. Really?
Wow. Nice picture. I don't get why people do that because I've scrolled down. Sometimes they'll put in more than one, but they'll put one in the college picture. And you're like, oh, he seems pretty young. And then as you scroll, you see the evolution of the years. It's like, oh,
yeah.
Why did you leave with that? I'm not meeting this guy. I'm meeting this guy.
Right. And I don't even think, I don't know. It's just I do get some younger people in college hit on me on these sites. I'm like, you're too young.
Oh, I get everything from I would say 28 to 84 is the oldest that I've gotten. And that is not my range that I asked for on there. What about college dates or anything? Doesn't have to be off a dating app or a site. What was your best date ever? How's that? It doesn't have to be college, just any time. Best date ever.
Best date ever was in college. It was my best and worst date. I met this guy at this conference in the city. I'd gone in as part of the student government. And it was the most romantic date I've ever had. We went to the top of the Empire State Building and there was flurries. So we went down to this Italian restaurant. we had like that scene of Lady the Tramp with the spaghetti kind of thing.
Aw.
And we walked around the village, and it was just really romantic. And then we went to get like end of the night drinks. And I did what every smart woman does. I turned to him and I said, "So, what are your thoughts on abortion?" And what I heard him say back was, "Well, I believe it's a woman's right to control her own body, and it's her decision, her decision." That's what I heard. And my brain's saying, I don't think that's what he said. And what he actually said is, I think it should be illegal under any circumstance. And if a woman does have an abortion, she needs to get the written consent of her boyfriend or husband. And they went downhill.
You think? Wait, I can't reach it. Hold on one second.
Yeah, exactly. But it was so romantic up until I brought abortion.
I'm curious though as to what made you bring that up on a really romantic first date.
I was thinking, I might end up sleeping with this guy. I need to know what's going to happen.
Were you not on birth control?
Oh my! I should really just double check just to get it out of the way.
I applaud you going right in for that and finding out, because really you could have dated him for a while before you knew that, and then it would have been like, oh, this is not going to work. Yeah.
It just was funny because he's like, "Is that a deal breaker?" And I'm like, "No, not at all." But I had nothing else to say to him at all. So, but it was so sweet up until that moment.
Wow. I'm sorry.
I just remember thinking, why? Years later, I'm like, why did I bring up why then? Could have been such a nice, perfect night, and then,
Well,
oh well.
you know now, and it's all good. And I'm sure it would have come out in other ways if that was his mindset.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So, but wow, that's pretty cool. Do you have like a worst date ever, or is that both? Did you just tell me that and it's both?
I mean, I did go on a date that someone set me up on also in college. The guy was just like, he was just gross, like the way he ate. It was just like, were you raised in a barn?
Oh.
But then he ordered ribs. He's like, I guess you shouldn't order ribs on a first date. And I remember thinking, it's our last date, so go to town.
That's good.
Don't let that constrain. I said, don't let that constrain you. Just eat what you want.
I worry sometimes though. I've lived alone for a while now, and I'm like, maybe I picked up some habits that I'm like so afraid I'm gonna be out on a date. I'm like, oh, like people are gonna look at me like, oh, is that the way you eat? Really? Like, oh my God.
It's like you're in jail. You got to get it all down.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Right. So, yeah. So you're not supposed to eat that with your hands. I didn't know that. I didn't, and who has utensils at home? So
right.
I worry.
Just eat that spaghetti anyway.
I get worried about that. I had another question and it left my mind.
Was it Moose?
Sure. Moose. Are you on any dating sites? Plenty of cats. All right. Well, this has been so much fun. I think we're going to end it here. Alyson Chadwick, my guest today, fellow comedian. Thank you so much for being here. You can find her on TikTok, Alyson Chadwick. And yeah, follow her. She's got a lot of jokes out there, a lot of funny stuff, right? Thank you. I'm Suzanne Linfante. Thank you so much for watching again. And we'll catch you next time on Swiping Left.